Orange County market, is it overpriced or are people just overpricing? Well, the data's in, so we're going to talk about that right now. This is Dean Odell with Seven Gables Real Estate in the Odell Group. Today is October 17th, and we are going to go to the charts. Here's the charts we're going to look at today. As you can see, today is the day we will also look at the Tustin data. So let's get started with our first chart now. Starting with active listing inventory, we are the purple line, and you can see it is flattening out. Today we have 3,694, 2 weeks ago, 3,666, last year, 2,408. So that means we are up 50% on listing inventory, still below the 3-year average prior to COVID, which was 6,306. So that's the active listing inventory. Let's talk about demand now. You can see again, we are the purple line, and look at that spike up all of a sudden. Unlike any other years, what do you think caused that? Well, of course it was interest rates, right? So as we discussed in previous episodes, we had interest rates dropping and they dropped down quite a bit. So we'd have this spike. But now the issue is we've had jobs reports and all kinds of data that have come out, and now the interest rates went back up another 50 basis points after dropping almost 100 basis points. So we're kind of back to where we were maybe 3-4 weeks ago on interest rates, and the effect of that we will see in the next Tustin Talks. But before that, let's look at what's going on today, which is 1,598 homes that are in escrow over the last 30-day period. 2 weeks ago, we were a little bit less at 1,554. Last year, 1,335. So look at how much we are up. I mean, we have more inventory, but we also have more sales. 3-year average, 2,206 homes. So if you just look at the lines, the colored lines, you can see this is an unusual year where we would be spiking on demand. So you can see that this is definitely an interest rate thing. When interest rates drop, our demand goes up, right? Because it has a big effect on buying power. Let's go to the next chart. So now we're looking at expected marketing time, the purple line. You can see how much it's dropped. Now that looks like a pretty big drop there in expected marketing time when you look at the chart, but as you can see, it's really only 2 days, okay? If we look at where we are overall in the Orange County market today, it's 69 days, and we look at our legend at the top, 60 to 90 days is a slight seller's market. Hey, what happened to that hot seller's market we've had for years and years and years? Well, it's turning into a slight seller's market. Let's look at the next chart and see how that looks by price range. So what you can see here is about half of our chart is a hot seller's market still. And in fact, that $1.25 to $1.5 million price range moved from the slight seller's bracket up to the hot seller's bracket when rates dropped. The only other seller's market we have is 1.5 to 2 million, which is a slight seller's market. Then we get to a balance between 2 million and 4 million in a deep buyer's market after that. So one thing to look at, if we all go back to, say, I don't know, when we were learning math, right? Look at our slight seller's market. You got 15% in the current inventory, 12% in the current demand. So another way to look at that is, what is that divisible by? It's divisible by 3. Remember that? So we're going to reduce that. So that's just like saying, hey, there are 5 houses for every 4 buyers in the $1.5 to $2 million price range. That's just a quick way to look at it. So you can go through this, pause on it and take a look at what you guys think about your price range. But we're going to be moving on to the Tustin data. So now if you look at our data of September 2024 versus September of 2023, you can see a lot of green arrows on this page. And starting with the top, what I notice is there's a lot more inventory, right, for sale this year. You have in the 92705 zip code, you have inventory up almost 73%. You look at what's going on in 92782, it's up almost 130%. You look at the new listings that have just come up in that particular month, and you can see across the zip codes, they're all up. You can see that solds are also up, but the solds, with the exception of the 92780 zip code, solds are up less than the inventory, right? So if we look at why that might be, well, remember the 92780 is the most affordable zip code of the three. And if you go back and you remember that chart we just looked at, the market speeds up the lower the price range, right? Moving on to pendings, you can see how that compares this year with last year as compared to new listings that have come on the market. Looks like we had a bump like that purple line showed, right? You know, you look at something like 92780 9782, they had a 38.5% new listing inventory and they had 33.3%. So it almost kept up with the amount of houses that were coming on the market, right? When you look at the average active price in North Tustin as compared to the other zip codes, you can see that it has the highest average price of the 3 zip codes. When you look at the average sold price, you can see that it does not have the highest average sold price. So why is that? What's going on in 92705? Well, what that is showing is that there is overpricing going on in 92705 right now. That's also the only zip code where pendings did not go up. So now if we look at the final list price for the zip codes, you can see that North Tustin actually has the most amount of cushion in it, where the lowest priced zip code, 92780, is still getting overbids. They're selling at 102%, right? 92782, you can see that they have had to come down on their prices, that people aren't overbidding over there. So they're kind of like right at that threshold of pain there for the buyers. The next one down, original list price to sold price, that just indicates how much they had to reduce before they got an offer, right? So right now they're starting out pricing their houses at 95% of what they sell for. Then on average, they have to change them and they sell for 98% of their final sales price in the 92705 zip code. So you can go ahead and check across all 3 zip codes and see how that looks. Average days on the market, you can see they've gone up in every single zip code. So this is where we move on to our buyer and seller advice. So let's get started with that now. Okay, so buyers, I know you probably are a little frustrated because things were going your way there for a while, right? We had inventory going up, which it still has, and we had interest rates going down, and now the interest rates have popped back up. And a lot of sellers don't recognize that has happened. And, you know, as a listing agent, you have to explain to the sellers what that really means for the buyers. You know, if the average buyer's putting 20% down and rates go up 0.5%, they just lost about 5% of their purchasing power, right? So if someone's putting 40% down, they might have lost half that much, 2.5% of their purchasing power. So this all has to play out in the price ranges according to how much demand there is, right? It doesn't mean the prices are gonna go down by that much. It just means that, hey, things might sit around a little bit longer before they sell, before the right buyer comes along for that house. So we're not seeing anything that's indicating crashing prices at this point. There are a lot of sellers that are overpricing or testing the market, which is fine. I mean, hey, nobody knows exactly what their house is worth, including the real estate agents representing them. I mean, if anybody, is telling people what their house is exactly worth, they're lying to them because nobody knows, right? The market is always going to dictate price. So as a buyer, be patient, but just realize there is still a lot of competition out there, okay? We're seeing multi-competition on our listings and, offers and everything else. Just be careful. You're buying for the long term. Want to make sure you get the house you like, right? Moving on to sellers. So now sellers, it's getting towards that holiday season, right? Does that mean nobody's going to buy houses? Of course not. I mean, people buy houses all year long. You're going to have less buyers in the marketplace, but you're also going to have less competition, right? Now, at the end of the year, you have people that come in, they're transferring their workplace, they're going to move their family during that season, right? So buyers are always out there. It's just, are they willing to buy at this point in time, okay? So my advice for you is just to make sure that your house is definitely priced properly during this time of year. So, sometimes it might take a few weeks to figure that out, but once you are getting kind of a feel, feedback-wise and everything else on your house, make the change, get it done, okay? So that's my advice for the sellers today, and we will see you in 2 weeks on Tustin Talks. In the meantime, you can subscribe to this and get it every 2 weeks, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.